And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi there, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska aviation weather update on this Saturday, October 12th, 2024. I want to start out to say we're just going to be taking a look at Sunday's flight category map simply because we've had some issues with data and things updating properly. But as of this Saturday, we still have a potent low here in the North Pacific with numerous weather-related hazards. We have high winds along the west coast, St. Lawrence Island. We have storm force winds as of this Saturday morning and afternoon that'll be here in the northern Gulf coast. And then we have an area of moderate to heavy rain that'll be working its way across, especially the northeastern Gulf Coast panhandle this Saturday afternoon and early evening. And that low is just going to kind of sit here south and southeast of Kodiak Island as we go through Sunday. And there'll be a secondary little impulse right up just off of the Gulf Coast here as we go through Sunday afternoon into evening. So that may enhance some of the gustiness of the winds. But we expect IFR conditions Sunday morning along the Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, up into the intercoastal mountains of the Panhandle. As of Saturday afternoon, evening, snow is going to be breaking out and working and increasing across from the lower Yukon all the way up here into the Brooks Range, North Slope areas. As a result, there are numerous winter storm warning and winter weather advisories for snow, accumulating snow, which would mean lower ceilings and visibilities and icing potential. That's all going to start up Saturday afternoon and evening and increase in coverage for a time, and then reside up here along the Brooks Range into the North Slope, eastern Arctic coast as we get into Sunday morning. And by Sunday afternoon, we still have IFR conditions here along areas of the North Slope. I would not be surprised if this would need to be updated and still have some lingering areas of snow here along the south slopes of the Brooks Range as well. And we find IFR conditions parts of the Copper River Basin, another area that could pick up some accumulating snow and higher terrain of the Talkeetna Mountains and the areas around like Eureka and Sheep Mountain. So keep that in mind as well. Now with this low, winds are slowly going to be coming down across much of the region as we get into Monday, but still some rather gusty winds will continue along the west coast in through the day Sunday. And as I said, still some lingering areas of wintry precipitation there across central and northern areas of the state. So starting with the pass conditions, Anaktuvik Pass and Anaktuvik Pass, Adigan and Anaktuvik Pass will have IFR conditions for sure this Saturday night, Sunday, as a result of accumulating snow, low ceilings and visibilities and icing potential as you get into the precipitation producing clouds. Lake Clark and Merrill will see IFR conditions hold throughout Sunday. Rounding up through the Alaska Range, Rainy Pass IFR. Windy Pass might have an interval of MVFR conditions. And Isabel should generally be in IFR conditions on Sunday. Further east, Mentasta Pass, generally MVFR conditions through the pass, but as you pop out on the north end, VFR conditions as you fly further north. And Tanita Pass, looking there, generally IFR conditions there through the Copper River Basin and down toward Portage Pass, IFR conditions with the exception of once you get outside of the west entrance. And then in the far northern portion of the Panhandle, IFR conditions are expected Sunday through the early portion of the day at Chilkoot and White, becoming MVFR. And looking at where we have warmer air aloft, it's out here in through central Canada, extending northward. It's not especially notable here pushing into the Gulf because we have an occluded low that's out in this region, and it's just going to slowly sit there the next couple of days before moving up through the lower Gulf, North Pacific interface, heading eastward and continuing to weaken. So overall, this low and the winds around it will gradually begin to come down as we go through deeper in the day Sunday and into Monday. But we have the cold air in place. There will be areas of accumulating snow, some of it heavier here along the Brooks Range, North Slope, and pockets within the interior. As we go through this Saturday afternoon and evening, it's going to be picking up, and then especially this Saturday night and early Sunday morning. Back to the west, broad troughiness and just cooler air aloft, freezing levels below 2,000 feet over much of the Bering and the Aleutians. Now, during the day on Sunday, we still expect areas of of snow where we would encounter icing potential above 1,000 feet along the Arctic coast there, new exit up through Kaktovik, through the Brooks Range and the areas south of the Brooks Range above 3,000 feet once you get above the precipitation producing cloud bases. And then along areas of the Gulf Coast, this area will begin to shrink Sunday and even more so into Monday, but still there will be lingering areas of coastal rain or rain showers with breezy conditions through Sunday into Monday. This is not just going to turn off like that. And freezing levels are a little higher over the southern portion of the Panhandle, so we'd expect icing potential to be higher up above 8,000 feet there in the southern Panhandle, generally above 4,000 feet along the Gulf Coast. And then behind me, there's a system coming in from the west that could place some icing, moderate icing above 6,000 feet there, way out toward the far western Aleutians. So here is the upper level pattern jet stream at 30,000 feet. We have a large low circulation here over the Gulf, southwestern Gulf, and ahead of it, a jet core of 155 knots over northwest Canada, 140 knots coming in there, Haiduk Y. On the backside, northerly flow over the central Bering and across the central eastern Aleutians at 9,000 feet, 700 millibars, strongest winds in mid-levels. 50 to 80 knots here up into British Columbia ahead of the system. You see the low circulation just southeast of Kodiak Island at 9,000 feet, and then a broad belt of northeast to north winds through the eastern half of the Bering and along the west coast Seward Peninsula. And then as we bring it down to 3,000 feet, you find there's that low circulation just southeast of Kodiak Island on Sunday. And ahead of it, winds are going to have a southerly component, strongest winds, still pockets of 50 knots here off of Sitka in their western Gulf. There's a little impulse that's going to rotate back to the north and west. Stronger winds, Vancouver up into the British Columbia coast, 50 to 65 knots. And then all across the far north and the northwestern coast, Chukchi Sea coast, Bering Strait, and right through this area from around Nome and the Bering Strait, the eastern portion of St. Lawrence Island, St. Matthew, St. Paul, just a broad belt of 40, 45 knot northeast to northerly winds that come down across the eastern Aleutians, tip of the Alaska Peninsula. And we still have some pretty good winds aloft coming in there into Prince William Sound, east side of the Kenai. So on Sunday, there's going to be a lot of turbulence. Areas of the interior still seeing moderate turbulence, surface to 4,000 feet, and certainly along any of the coastlines here from Point Hope southward through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence, down along the YK Delta, St. Matthew, St. Paul, eastern Aleutians into the tip of the Alaska Peninsula, and then moderate turbulence is likely still along the Gulf Coast, areas that could include lower Cook Inlet, eastern Kenai, Prince William Sound, all the way back through areas of the Panhandle, surface to 6,000 feet, where there could even be some low-level wind shear as well. So keep that in mind, as still not the best of conditions are anticipated on Sunday across a fair portion of the state. And because what I told you, some of the data that was missing, be sure to check the latest observations and look for new updates regarding frontal positions and areas of flight categories, so you have the most current information to help you make very thoughtful decisions before flying out.